We, the committee of INSAT, we represent India, and today we are going to talk about India's one of the major festivals, Diwali. So INSAT, let's talk about INSAT first. So INSAT is the Indian Students Association of Tallahassee, and we promote Indian culture and help Indian students on campus. So whenever there are any new incoming students coming to US for the first time, we guide them, like we pick them up from the airports and we provide temporary accommodation to them, for a few initial days, and then we guide them in choosing one of all the best apartments in and around FSU. We also organize a lot of events throughout the year, especially during the major festivals of Holi, Diwali, and Dasara. We also conduct, occasional potlucks, in order to preserve the Indian culture at FSU. Diwali, yeah, the Festival of Lights. So why is it called the Festival of Lights? Let's get to know some background of this. So once the Lord Ravana, who was the king of demons, once he abducted Sita, who was the wife of Lord Rama. So because of that, Lord Rama, along with his brother Lakshman, he'll go to the kingdom of Ravana in order to get Sita back safely. He'll wage a war against him, and he fights with the demon king Ravana and wins the battle. So they'll return back to their hometown. So on their victory, people celebrated their victory and welcomed the king by lighting the lamps in the town. So this festival basically signifies the triumph of good over evil and light over darkness.
Yeah, so Diwali is celebrated for 5 days. It's kind of a complete fun package for a week. So, like on the day first, we call it as a Dhanteras. So, Dhan means money, and it's kind of people say it's lucky to buy gold and silver items on this day. So, people do a lot of shopping, and it's kind of a very heavy rush in the markets. Then on day two, we have a Choti Diwali, which is a day prior to the Diwali, and it's like on this day, Lord Krishna, he defeated the demon Narkasur. So it's kind of a pre-celebration for Diwali, and people just get ready for the main day. Then on the main day, day third, is the Diwali itself. So in the night, we worship Lord, Goddess Lakshmi and Lord Ganesha and offer praise to Lord Rama. So people light candles and lamp all over there. So it's very beautiful outside. So if you see, and then have a dinner together and exchange gifts. Then on day four, we have Govardhan Puja. So Govardhan Puja is like people go to the temple, and temple people basically prepare food and lunch for the people, those who come over there. So it's again great fun. And day five is known as Bhai Dooj. So Bhai means brother. So this day is for like the brother sister festival. So sisters take sweets for the brothers, and the brothers give gifts to the sister. So yeah, so it's kind of a complete fun. Yeah, so next I think we have a wonderful dish, kheer. So we make it on the day of Diwali and on the other festivals as well. So it's very yummy and very nice to have that one.
All right. Let me go ahead. All right. I'm excited about the cooking demo. Yashika, are you ready? I think you didn't.
I am muted myself. Yes, totally ready. Yes.
Yeah, let's see. Jesse is ready already. Let's see. Hi, Chef Jesse, it's your turn.
Hey, thanks, Yang. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Globe Kitchen. Today we've got rice kheer. This is a delicious rice pudding, probably the original rice pudding. It's been in South Asian and Indian cuisine for thousands of years. Today we're going to show you kind of a deluxe version, we're packing in tons of flavor and lots of kind of really tasty, delicious ingredients. But the most simple recipes for this can be as simple as milk, basmati rice, and a little bit of sugar, which is delicious. But we are going to add all these other tasty ingredients. We've got some coconut milk down here. So we're going to do part coconut milk and part cow's milk. Cow's milk, we've got whole milk. And for this recipe, we've got 2.5 cups of the whole milk and 1 can of coconut milk. If you just wanted to do, you know, one type of milk, you're going to want about a quart, so 4 cups. 4 cups and you know, maybe about a half a cup would be fine too. A lot of these recipes are in liters out there. So we're also going to add some ghee to this recipe. And ghee is a, basically it's like butter oil. So you take a stick of butter, you melt it gently, either in a microwave or a pan, and then the cream solids are gonna float to the top and the water is gonna sink down to the bottom. And so you scrape off those cream solids and then you can just lift off this butter oil from it. And so what's really nice about ghee is that you can kind of heat it up to higher temperatures without it burning. And it also kind of stays fresh longer. Since you get that water out of it, it doesn't spoil quite as quickly. We're also, which is standard for rice kheer, we've got basmati rice. It's a really aromatic long grain rice from India and South Asia. And you really need to get some good basmati rice for this recipe. And I'm using the white rice. I have not seen it with brown basmati. Probably wouldn't be as creamy and delicious, but you could probably do it. And so some of our flavorings here for it today, we've got cardamom. So cardamom is this awesome spice. It comes in these little green pods and you want to get green cardamom. And this is kind of the most raw form you can get it in these green pods like this. It's a little husk. And if you really want to get exceptional cardamom flavor, the best way is to buy these pods and then you can harvest the little seeds out of them. And these are the most kind of aromatic and fresh and flavorful way to kind of get this spice going. You can also buy it in these little, you know, pre-shucked little granules. You can also buy it pre-ground. But for the most outstanding cardamom flavor, which cardamom in this recipe today is really like has the leading role for the spices. It's got this very kind of exotic blend of spices aroma. It's like a combination of all kind of spices, allspice, cinnamon, clove, but it has a really distinct its own thing too, which, you know, no other spice can really match. And so I really recommend that you get these green ones because they also stay fresh for much longer. And you harvest these little seeds out of it, and then you grind it up in a little mortar and pestle, or you self-grind it in a coffee grinder. I'm sure all of you all drink coffee out there, or most of you anyways, if you're joining coffee hour. So you can use your coffee grinder, clean it out, and you can grind up all your spices in your coffee grinder if you don't have a mortar and pestle. I was kind of thinking that this spice was so hard you wouldn't be able to grind it in the pestle, mortar and pestle, but it did work after a little while. I was pretty happy about that. Okay, so also we have got saffron. Now this is going to add kind of a base layer of aroma and flavor, and it's going to give it a slight kind of yellowish color too. You want to be careful about where you get your saffron from. If you come across saffron that seems too good of a deal, it probably is. This little pack right here costs $4.50 at Publix, and it's just the Badia brand, and it is pure saffron. It's good. And I would say this $4.50 will probably be able to make you 4 or 5 times this recipe. So, you know, a little bit goes a long way. It's worth getting the real stuff. Don't get the cheap stuff, because I actually learned with the Iranian group here, we're making some food, I think it's for Global Cafe. I had bought a large amount of saffron for them because they really needed a lot. And it ended up being not really good quality stuff. Half of it was actually shredded paper that was dyed, and the other half was saffron. So they totally tricked me. I thought I was getting a deal, but I really wasn't. So anyways, watch out for that. Publix has good stuff. But you can also, Costco's saffron is actually a really good price too, and you get a lot more. And theirs is really high quality too. All right, so, and then we're gonna move on. We're also gonna add all these nuts here and these yellow raisins. We've got cashews, and these are all unsalted and raw. These pistachios may be lightly roasted. I think they have to roast them to get them out of the shell. But we've got some cashews, pistachios, and these are blanched skinned almonds. And those are gonna go in as kind of a finishing touch to our rice kheer. And they add a delicious kind of nutty taste. As you know, pistachios are beautiful and tasty. So we'll get into more of that in a minute. So the first thing we're gonna need to do is warm up our milk. I like to pre-warm the milk. It helps the process go a little bit faster here. And so we're gonna warm up both the coconut and the whole milk. All right. So you don't necessarily want to put this on a super high heat, because when it comes to a boil, it will tend to want to boil out of the pan pretty quickly. It'll kind of pop off. So I'm just going to have it on a medium heat and kind of watch it closely. And this is a 2-quart saucepan, plenty of room. So today I'm going to cook the kheer in this nonstick pan that I actually bought for the Vietnamese crepes that we did a few weeks ago. This will work well for this dish. The nonstick definitely helps. But if you don't have a nonstick pan like this, you can use a 2-quart saucepan, something with a heavy bottom, something that's going to diffuse the heat from the burner a little bit more. What's nice about the nonstick is that it's going to be a lot harder for the milk to burn on here. All right, so we're going to turn this up to about medium heat, medium low. And we're going to scoop a couple tablespoons of this ghee. And so the ghee right now at room temperature, as you know, butter is firm. And so it's kind of cold in here, actually. They're keeping the globe around 70 degrees these days. So it's a little chilly. My ghee is firm. We're going to drop a couple tablespoons. Now, a lot of recipes don't have ghee in them for here. I searched through all types of recipes and kind of blended some of the best kind of ideas that I saw in them and best flavors to make kind of the ultimate rice kheer recipe here. And one thing I really liked was, one recipe I saw was that they used ghee to toast the basmati rice in. And we're not actually going to get it toasty brown. We're just going to lightly toast it. You'll see the rice will turn white, from this kind of opaque white to like a solid white. And we're just going to put in a 1/4 cup. That's it. So we got a quart of liquid to a 1/4 cup of rice. Okay. So we're slowly heating this up. We're going to stir this a little bit, gently stir it. No metal spoon in your nonstick pan. All right. Here we go. All right, so it's looking good. You see the slightly foaming up here. Rice is turning a little bit white. We do not want it to turn brown. So we are going to gently turn this down a little bit. All right. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to add in a half teaspoon of my cardamom that's ground up, fresh ground. And that's going to bloom a little bit in this ghee and rice mixture. It's going to develop that flavor a little bit. It's really going to make that cardamom pop here. Infuse it in that butter. We're going to turn that off and let that sit for a second. Okay. All right, so our milk is getting warm. So when you pre-warm the milk, once you pour it in here, it'll just all start cooking pretty quickly. You don't have to change temperatures a lot. You don't have to get it boiling and and then reduce it. You can just kind of leave it on a nice medium low temperature and just kind of quickly move right into the cooking process here. So we're going to take this and we're going to pour it right in. There we go. So I'm going to pour most of this milk out. I'm going to turn this down. So we're just getting a little simmer. I'm going to reserve a tiny bit of milk here, about a half a cup. And I am going to turn the heat off here. All right, so I don't know, I just heard this morning, I think on the radio, that today is World Kindness Day. So I want to encourage everyone out there to be kind to your neighbors and people in your community, across communities, you know, and maybe make this kheer tonight and share it with somebody that needs a little bit of kindness, because there's nothing, well, I'm sure there's something, but I think there's nothing more kind than sharing some extraordinary food. It's really a great way to show that you care. It can lift people's spirits. All right, so I'm going to turn this one up a little bit. We're going to want to get this milk simmering pretty low. We don't want it simmering too high, but we want a little action bubbling here, and you can kind of see it going. You can go up a little bit higher than that. This nonstick is actually really forgiving. It can go pretty high without it burning and kind of collecting on the pan. But what I'm doing with my spoon is I'm going around the edge here, because some milk fat will collect on the side there. And that is the point where it would burn, is right on this edge, because it's catching that flame on the side. So you're going to come around and scrape that side a bunch. And you're also going to kind of come across the bottom. Just make sure you're stirring this, not constantly, but you know, fairly occasionally. If you've got it on a nice medium low temp, you should be pretty safe. All right, so this milk that I've reserved over here, we're going to add our saffron to. And so, you know, in order to make extraordinary food, you know, that's above average, one of the tricks that I found is being really kind to your herbs and spices. And what I mean by that is treating them the best way possible, using the best spices, like this cardamom in the pod. When you take that extra effort to harvest those seeds and use it, you know, super fresh and grind it fresh, your food is going to have, you know, it's almost like magic. You know, people are gonna be like, oh, I make this all the time. How come it isn't as good as yours? And it's like, well, you know, I went to the trouble to, you know, select things by hand, do all this by hand, treat everything in a way that's going to, you know, get the best out of it. And so when I first wrote this recipe, I was like, oh, you know, I'm going to make this as easy as possible. We're just going to throw the saffron right into the pan with the rice and just cook it along. And I was like, you know what, I need to read a little bit more about saffron and see, you know, if that's really the best option. And so what I was reading was that saffron is a water soluble spice herb. And so mixing it in here with the milk and the butter and everything can work and will work. But I think I'm going to extract a little more flavor from just the plain milk here. And with a really, you know, no heat. It's just a hot milk. It's going to sit and it's going to bloom and really extract all this saffron flavor out. If I put it straight into this pan that it's cooking, it's going to cook and cook. And a lot of that delicate aromatics from the saffron are going to cook out of it. And it's, you know, you're going to get that color, but you're not going to get that saffron, you know, kind of aroma coming out that's really going to be that kind of magical touch. So anyways, I altered my recipe after I read some more about it because I thought that people just bloom their saffron in a separate container so that it would diffuse the taste. I didn't think that it would really affect the flavor too much, but what they say is that it will affect the flavor. So I'm going to take this extra step to make my kheer extra special. All right, so here we go. We're just gonna let it sit in this and it's gonna bloom. And they say to let it sit for, you know, 10 to 15 minutes. And then we'll add that in at the end. Okay, so at this point, we're going to cook this on a simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes. And I am going to stir it for a little bit. While Yashika, do you have any extra information about rice kheer you'd like to share with us?
Of course, yeah. I would take this opportunity to just let people know more about kheer. So, kheer is also called as payasa or payasam. And this word payasa and payasam is being like used in the southern part of, and kheer is mainly used in the northern part of India. And as Jessie told, it is a recipe that has been made, that has been like introduced over 2000 years ago. And it's a popular dish of ancient India, and we have been taking forward with us throughout this time. And it is mainly being offered as a religious offering in temples and gurudwaras. And you do not need an occasion to make a kheer at home at all in India. But yes, it is being cooked on a special occasions like Diwali and other festivals, and is being given as a religious offering in temples and gurudwaras as well. So it is one of the famous meals and desserts that we have in India. It has also been one of the staple meals actually in ancient India, but now it has been used as a dessert. And initially in ancient times, just rice, milk, and sugar were the three ingredients that were being used to make this kheer. But now we made it more rich, like we made it richer by adding like cardamoms, raisins, saffron, cashews and pistachios and everything. And one thing I would like to add here is that in place of rice, you can use like bulgur wheat or millet or tapioca, vermicelli. You can use these things as well to make it like, if you do not want to make it by rice, you can use these substitutes. And for milk, you can use like almond milk as well, in place of like cow milk or coconut milk. And yeah, that's it for the kheer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
So much history here.
So much history here. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
India is all about history, traditions, and customs. So yeah.
Right. So this is cooking along here. It definitely needs a little bit more time, but I'm going to just kind of advance this recipe along. So I would probably cook this another 5 or so minutes before I added my other ingredients. But for the sake of the demo, we won't make you sit through the 5 more minutes of stirring. All right, so the next addition, actually, yeah, Laura, do you want to come back over? We'll look at the different nuts here. We're going to add some of the nuts, and I think it's about a 1/4 cup of all 3 nuts combined together, so it's not a ton. And I'm gonna go a little bit heavier on the pistachios because I love the pistachios. Pistachios and saffron and cardamom is just like magic. It's such a delicious combination. All right, so I've got them together, and we're just gonna cut them with a large knife. You don't have to super mince them up, but we do want them to be similar size. And just gonna get through it here. If you have almonds with the skins on them, an easy way to get those skins off is to boil a pot of water, and you basically blanch the almonds for, I think, probably not even a minute. I forget what the exact time is, but it's not very long. And then you strain it out, and then you can pop the skins off of each one. You just kind of pop them right off, and then you can have the blanched almonds right at home. And you can use those for all types of things. I used to make almond milk with blanched almonds. It's delicious. Way better than the stuff at the grocery store. Definitely a little more effort to put into it. Okay. Here we go. All right, so we've got our nuts chopped up. We've got our raisins. I'm just gonna kind of add all these together in the same bowl. Okay. Okay, let's head back over to the stove. All right, get this going again. All right, so this seems pretty watery, and it will stay pretty liquidy like this until it's like cools down to room temperature. As it cools to room temperature, it will thicken. This is not a thick rice pudding where you know, are going to scoop it with a spoon. It's definitely something more like a ladle, like you'd ladle it out. It's not, somewhat pourable. So let's add our nuts and our raisins in. And then we're gonna cook a couple more minutes with the nuts and raisins. They're gonna soften up in there. And they won't, so yeah, you want the nuts to cook in here a little bit so they don't contrast too much with the texture of the rice. You want them to be somewhat firm, but not super crunchy. Then we're gonna do 6 tablespoons of sugar. Okay. So it's important to add these towards the end of the cooking process. The sugar definitely is going to promote this, the burning and the sticking to the bottom of the pan. So you add this towards the end, once the rice is cooked. You're gonna cook it for a couple more minutes. And then we're going to add our saffron mix here. You can see where the saffron is bloomed and this has turned a nice kind of light orange, and that will continue to bloom as it's in here. But we've preserved those amazing aromatics there, so we're gonna really get the most out of it. All right, so yeah, this is the beginning of the end here. We're just going to cook this down for a few more minutes. And then this is what it's going to eventually look like. This one has been, I made earlier today, and I cooled it as well. So it's cooled, but it's still slightly runny there. And that's perfectly acceptable. And I think I put more saffron in this one because it is definitely a little more orange. But the saffron on here will probably, as it cooks, is gonna bloom out a little bit more. And it will also turn a little bit more orange than that. Some of these things are to taste. I mean, the cardamom, you definitely don't want to do more than a half teaspoon of cardamom because this is pretty well spiced. Sugar can definitely be to taste. You could add a little more sugar, add a little less sugar if you want, as well as the saffron. If you like a more pronounced saffron flavor, definitely add some more. But this is a pretty good recipe, so I'm liking these proportions that we got today. So, oh yeah, here we go. So I'm stirring it up. The rice was on the bottom here. Oh yeah, I think I went a little heavy on the saffron. Feeling pretty rich. Okay, so we're going to pour it into 4 serving bowls. This is going to make 4 servings. Uh-oh, making a mess over here. I'm gonna have to wipe these rims. Okay, and this is a good 4 serving recipe. You're not going to get too large of servings or too small. It's a really nice treat. And then we can also save some of your nuts to do a little garnish, especially if you're presenting this at home for a guest. You can always garnish this up pretty easily. Few extra almonds. You could also save a few of the saffron threads to put on top. Do we have any questions out there from anybody? Anybody interested in trying to make kheer for somebody special this weekend?
So we do have a lot of interactions happening in the chat box. Unfortunately, you cannot see it, Jesse.
Oh.
But there are a lot of questions about the food and
Okay.
where to buy the materials and
Okay.
About like the difference between different oils and the stuff. So Nidhi, are we good to replying all of those questions in the chat box?
Okay,
So-
well, how about this? I can hang out in the main room if anybody wants to ask questions, or if Yashika, if you want to hang out in the main room when we break out the breakout rooms, people can ask us questions.
Yeah,
In
sure. They
person.
can ask anywhere they want. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a
Sounds
lot.
like, okay. So yeah, here's our kheer today. It's really delicious.
Trust me, it is really delicious. It is one of the yummiest kheers you will ever eat. Oh God, Jesse is very good at doing his job.
Thank you so much.
I have
Yeah.
a quick question here, since you two are
Okay.
all here. And is it like a hot serving, or it's also good when you eat it cold?
That is a very good question, and I was just going to, talk about that. If you like cold things, like if you like eating cold food or something, I think this is one of those dishes you will definitely like eating.
It looks so good. Like in hot summer, that would be the best dessert ever.
Oh yes, yes.
Mhm.
All
Yeah, it
right.
can also be, you can serve it fresh, like it needs to cool down at least to room temperature for it to actually thicken up slightly. So I think, chilling it and eating it the next day, the flavors are definitely going to develop a little bit more. And, but you can definitely serve it warm, same day too. But,
Lovely. Thank
all
you,
right, well,
Jesse.
yeah, you're welcome. Anybody wants to stay around, I'll be happy to talk to you when we're